Hello, we are going to create a very basic rig with very basic concepts here. And this is probably one of the most basic rigs that you can create. I'm going to start off really simple here. In fact, I'll probably start off just making the head just to express these very basic concepts to you in a way that will hopefully be easy to remember. So we know in Harmony, we open this up, we have our default drawing. I'm going to just go ahead and double click here where it says drawing, and I'm going to call it head. And then I'm going to click here for the rectangle tool, and if I hold it down, I get a menu that opens, and I'm going to select ellipse. And my color selected here is black. So I'm going to go ahead and hold shift. Well, actually, I don't need to hold shift. I'm just going to make a head like this. I think that works great. Okay, there we have it. And I'm going to fill it with a color. So I will go ahead and select my paint bucket tool, and I will select white, and we will go ahead and fill the circle there with white. And so that is my head, and that is my head layer, right? So now what I want to do is I'm going to click Control R or Command R on a Mac, and I'm going to get these options to add some drawing layers. So I'm going to go ahead and add another one. I'll call it mouth, and I'll click Add. So here we see I've added a new layer. I'm calling it mouth. I might as well add another one. I got this window still open. If you clicked Add and Close, which you might have, that's okay. It closed out, right? That's okay. We'll come back to it. Control R again, we'll open it up again. And we will call this LI for left eye. Add, this middle mouse button, or middle button here, add. And then I'll just select the L and make that a capital R for right eye. Add and close. There we go. So we've got some pieces. We got a mouth, we got a left eye, we got a right eye, right? So for the mouth, I'm going to go ahead and select that and that layer here. And I'm going to go ahead and I like to use my pencil tool. You can use brush, whatever. I'm going to select black, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a mouth, right? I'm going to draw it like that. You could draw it any which way you like. So drawing my mouth. And now I'm going to select my left eye, and I'm going to go ahead and select my ellipse tool again. And I'm going to go ahead and drag. And there we go. I've added an eye. I'll select my paint bucket, and I'll fill it. There we go. There's my eye for my left eye. I'm going to go ahead and use my select tool here, top left, select, right, the black arrow at the top left, and I'm going to click and drag here over this my eye. I'm going to do a Control C to copy, Control C or Command C on a Mac, using my select tool here, this black arrow at the top left. Okay, and then I will select the right eye layer. And I'll click once here in the window and do a Control or Command V to paste. There we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and, if I zoom in here, You can see if I hold my cursor over it, it makes this four-way directional. I will go ahead and click and drag that, and I can just drag that over to the left. If I want to make sure that it's on the same, um, totally parallel to the other eye, I can hold Shift. Well, after I've already started clicking and dragging, I'll click Shift, and it'll just make it go in a straight line. See that? Straight horizontal line all the way over. So there we go. We've added that. If, if it's not perfectly aligned, that's fine. And yours does not have to look like mine. I'm just doing this as is. You guys can do it any which way you want, right? So now we've added these things. We've added these elements. Each element here is on its own layer, right? And if I wanted to, like if I used my transform tool right down here, my transform tool, and if I click here to select my head, you see it's selected here, head layer, I can now drag this around. And that's good. I can even animate it. You remember when we animated the bouncing ball using our transform tool, we automatically added keyframes. But the thing is that it'd be nice if the other parts were parented to this head so that they could all move together, right? Okay. So there's a couple ways to do this, and we're going to look at all of them. I'm going to expand this area here on the right. I just went here and then you see it made this double-sided arrow so I can drag it. And I'm going to click the node view. In the node view, I'm going to click this arrow here to expand it. That's this arrow at the top right here. It'll expand it up. And the node view can be a little intimidating at first. What is this? What are these things? If you've ever worked with nodes, you might be familiar with what this is. But right now, they're like in a mess. They're all stacked up on each other. But you'll notice we have some buttons here about ordering the node view. So I can go ahead and just click, I think I can click this without selecting anything, order node view up, click OK. I didn't do it. I will click and drag over all of these and then click this order node view up and click, here's the settings for it. I'll click OK. That's fine. Look at that. So here I have the head node. I have the mouth node. I have the left eye and the right eye node, and they are plugged into this node that's called the composite. The composite. And basically, that is, it's composited them all together. Everything on the right is on the bottom, just like it shows here in the timeline. Things above it are directly to the left. So basically, what I have here, my right eye I added last, and that is all the way to the left. So that is the thing that is all the way on top, right? So that's an order there. And this is new to you. Pretty much everything that we've done before, you have probably done last semester. But this thing, the node view, this is new, right? Okay. That's okay. We're going to figure this out. And the first way that we're going to figure it out is we can see that we have the head. We can see this pipeline that plugs into the composite, and that makes it visible. If I take this pipe off, look at that. It's disconnected from the composite. It's no longer visible. we can see where composite has plugged into the bottom of it, the display node. That's what shows it here on screen. The right node is how it would render out. So anyway, head is plugged into the composite and then makes it visible. If I take my head and I plug it here again from the bottom and attach it to the top of the mouth, look at that. Look at what that does. It's added a blue pipe into composite and a green pipe under the top of mouth. And what does that mean? The blue pipes and the blue colors here in node view basically mean display. The green pipes are used for, well, it says transformation, parenting, moving things, right? So right now, if I select the head with the transform tool, not the select tool here at the top, the transform tool right here, and I move that around, all of a sudden the mouth moves with it. The mouth is a child of the head, okay? So we could do the same thing. We could have the mouth or the head be the parent of the eyes, and we can pull those over. There we go, there's the head. Now everything moves with the head, right? And I can add keyframes for that. Like we can expand all of our exposures here. If I select this last frame, frame 60 for head, you see everything disappears because I don't have any exposures that make it visible in the timeline. If I hold shift, I can select the bottom frame here, the bottom layer. And you see I've selected now all of these layers and this frame 60 in all these layers. By holding shift, I click the top one, I held shift and click the bottom one. And then I will click the key F5 at the top of my keyboard. Not the key F and not the key 5 together, but the single key F5, and that will extend my exposure. There we go. Now if I kind of move around with the transform tool here on frame 1, you see that head automatically has a square added to it. That's a keyframe. I could even have clicked F6 will also add that keyframe, right? And then I'll go ahead and go to say frame 40 and I'll move that head over, right? And there we go. Automatically, it's tweened. It's made a motion tween in between there, right? Okay, so this is interesting. We can now help use this to help us animate and to animate a rig, right? Okay. All right. So there we have that. Again, I'll select the head. And you'll notice when I selected the head, this blue dot here. What is that? Yours may not be there. Yours may be at the bottom of the head. It may be in a various other place of the head. Let me go ahead and using the transform tool, you see I have this bounding box, and if I go to this corner, I can rotate. When we rotate, it becomes obvious now that blue dot is our pivot point. So if we ever need to start pivoting, that's not a very, or rotating, that pivot point is not a very good place for it to be, is it? Doing a Control Z there to get it back in its proper position. So the next thing that I want to do is start changing around my pivot points. I have my keyframes on here. They're fine. We'll worry about that animation later. But we want to look at changing the pivot points of each of our objects. Okay, we've gotten the basics of parenting down here. That is great. The next thing here is pivot points, and typically pivot points are going to be a thing that are going to take up most of your time. So if I use this advanced rotate tool at the top here, advanced rotate tool, I can then use this to reposition the pivot. For the head, I'll put it right here at the bottom. I will go ahead from that point. Again, that's the advanced rotate tool here at the top, right? And now if I select the mouth, I can move that pivot point there. Again, it's the advanced rotate tool right here at the top. I'll select the eye, and I'll move that pivot point right there into the middle of the eye. That's the left eye. You can see when it turns it into a burgundy color, that'll show you that it's selected. The right eye, I'll go ahead and move that pivot point. Okay, so good. So using the transform tool, I rotate this, it rotates right around its center, or center enough, I guess. I can really concentrate on getting this in each center. Okay, there we go. Very good. All right, so now if I move it and rotate it, it rotates mostly the way I want it to. I like this. Okay, we've gone over kind of the basics of parenting and making a rig. Like, kind of really comes down to these basic elements. But there's one thing. I have this head selected. If I click on any one of these squares here in the middle, using the transform tool here again on the left, any one of these will scale, right? And maybe I want that. Maybe I want it to scale like that. Maybe I want it to scale like this. But what if I don't? What if I want to scale the head for whatever reason, adding some squash and stretch, but I don't want to scale the eyes and the mouth together with it? What if I want to make them separate? So still parented, but separate. How would I work around that? All right. So yeah, what if I wanted to make that so that when I scale it, it scales on its own and not everything else, but yet still is parented. So let's try that. Let's see. I want to start with this at its normal default position. I've already scaled it. If I click R, look at that. There it goes. R will reset this position of this object. R. Okay. Okay. And that's one question, actually, the scaling without scaling other things. But what if we wanted to do something else? Like, what if we wanted to, I don't know, make it look like the face was turning or something like that? Okay. So how could we do something like that? What we could do is add what's called a peg, right? A peg. And what is that? A peg is just an invisible item that we can add that could become apparent and used to control certain things. So if I do a control P, that'll add a peg. Or if you're in Mac, Command P will add a peg. So I've added this peg, and that peg, I will go ahead and click underneath it to parent it to the mouth, to the left eye, to the right eye, and we'll just go ahead and click and drag from the bottom of the head for now to add to the peg, so that the head will be the parent of the peg, and the peg will be the parent of all these items here. And so here's the peg. I have it selected. I can change the pivot. Remember, we have the advanced rotate tool, and I will put it right here in the center of the eyes and the mouth. And then I'll use my transform tool. And then with the peg selected, all of a sudden, oh, look, I'm looking over here. Oh, look, I'm looking over here. Oh, look, I'm looking down here, or I'm looking up here, right? So we've added that. And if I select the head, we can still move it all around. Okay, so there we have it. We can even take this peg and we can go to, say, frame 40. We have this moving, and we'll go to frame 40. And with that peg selected, I'll make that look down. Okay, I've added a keyframe. And so let's look at these keyframes. The head's moving up and then looking down here, right? Well, there we go. That's pretty weird. And that's something we can use. And it's something that is used in television animation all the time. All right. So that's what I have for this for now. I think we've gone over some pretty complex things here. We have our peg that we've created. We've created different layers, different nodes. Our head, mouth, our left eye, our right eye. We've created a peg, and we've learned what that is to control things and move things around, right? So as we go on, we will be using these items frequently. What we want to do here is save this. We'll go to File, Save As, and I will call this my last name, and then underscore basic rig1. Click Save. Okay. It's one of the most important things. And then I'm going to go to File, Backup Scene. This is the most important thing. Backup Scene. And when I do that, it gives me this name, calling it Import Band in Basic Rig 1, and on this big number. I will go ahead and save this to the same location. So where am I? Oops. And let's see. And I will go ahead and save it here in my school folder. I will just leave it with the same file name, import band and basic rig. I will click in it. You see it saves as type a backup .7z. It's a 7. It'll be a 7-zip file that it creates. All right. It says successfully created. It shows me where it's made it. Okay. And that zip file, that 7-zip file, is what you want to turn in, and that's what you want to do during the semester while you're working. Just backing up your scenes, saving them as iterations. I'll go ahead and click OK. All right. So you want to turn in your zip file. All righty. Thank you.